Hello everyone, welcome to the Green Man channel. Hope you're all good and well. So time for another premiere and time to finally return to the Malazan Book of the Fallen series. After quite a long time since I recorded my last video on Untitled the Hounds and did a review of that, we finally move on to the next instalment of this epic fantasy series, Dust of Dreams, the 9th book in the series by Steven Erikson. And of course this follows on, I think in the timeline, this kind of is more of a follow-on to Reaper's Gale, the 7th book, but obviously in terms of the books themselves, it comes after Untitled the Hounds. So before I get into the video too much, just to say how these videos normally work, I do the first part of the video as a spoiler-free review, so if you just hear, you just want a teaser of things, of how I feel about the book itself, maybe rather than knowing everything that happens, then this is the part of the video for you. But if you just want to skip straight through, if you know the book very well, you just would rather listen to what my favourite moments of the book are, then that's the second part of the video. Or maybe you just watch the whole video, why not? And just get my thoughts on it and my favourite moments too, if you don't mind spoilers. Right, so let's go and dig into Dust of Dreams a bit more. And I will be honest here and very upfront straight away. I found this book a struggle, I think. And it's part of the reason why it's been such a long time since Untitled the Hounds, and I did my video on that. It's just that the middle bulk of this book, the middle bulk I found quite tricky. I enjoyed the start and end quite a lot. But Dust of Dreams, its middle is kind of a tough read. I think personally for me, I found it pretty tough. And I think it doesn't help. I mean, there's been other things going on for me. I've just been very busy for one, but also I've been playing other content for the YouTube channel for The Green Man. And it's just felt like a lot to kind of take in. With Malazan, you also, I think, almost have to be quite studious in remembering things, noting things down, and trying to understand what's happening as you're reading sometimes. So it takes quite a significant effort sometimes. Not that Malazan is always particularly complex in its kind of, in what's actually unfolding and happening, but it's just the vastness of it sometimes is quite difficult to keep up with. So this has just been a tough read for me. And I will say, I'll just be frank, really, just to say it's probably one of my least favourite books of the series so far, but being the last but one book, I don't know if it's a good sign for the last book, but I don't know. I still want to finish this series really badly because I have enjoyed it. I have enjoyed most of it. I think Erikson's an amazing writer of fantasy, and I have just found there to be some absolutely incredible moments in this series, and it's those moments that generally bring me in and bring me back to the series. So Dust of Dreams was no different in that way, really. There were some pretty amazing things that were going on. Also some deeply unsettling and quite upsetting things in this book as well, I'll be honest about that too. But yeah, so let's talk a bit more about some of the story threads, the story arcs, if you like, in this 9th entry of the series, Dust of Dreams. So you've got a few different things happening, I think, at large. A few main storylines, I would say. One of them involving the Adjuncts and the Bone Hunters in Letheri, and their mission that they are sort of on, going through this desert wasteland to stand against an ancient enemy that we don't really know too much about, and it's not really revealed, I don't think, unless I missed something somewhere earlier in the series. But yeah, that's sort of the setting part of the book. You also have Onos Tulan very involved in this book as the war leader of the Barghast clan, and he has quite a task at his hands, and it's, I don't want to go into major spoilers here. Obviously, this is the spoiler-free part of the video, but you can probably predict that he has some difficulty in bringing them round to his kind of trying to make peace and operate peace policy within the Barghast. You also have, I think, quite a cool story involving the Snake, this other race, I think, or this other part of Letheri, and this character called Vedan, which I enjoyed. I liked that stuff. And I really loved the Deck of Dragons part of this book in the early segment. I think it was quite early on. I will be talking maybe a little bit. I'm not sure actually I'll put a favourite moment in that bit, but one of the things I love about Erikson, about this series generally, are the concepts, the high fantasy stuff and the ideas in Erikson's world that he has created, like the Warrens, like the Deck of Dragons. And I love the part with the Deck of Dragons here is just fantastic, involving the Errants. I think it's also Fiddler and Breeze, and it is just a really great part of this book. Just visualising it, the deck of cards and like much the way I loved visualizing all the stuff with Opon and the coin in the first book, and it's all of that stuff is just fascinating to read, and sometimes tricky to get your head around as well, but I really enjoyed that part of this book, and that was great too. And I liked the climax, and the kind of cliffhangery bit at the end of the book as well was very cool, involving, I guess, what happens with, well, I don't really want to say it at this point, but it's just very exciting stuff at the end. So to round off my thoughts before I dig into my favourite moments, overall, probably one of my least favourite books, as I say, but still not unenjoyable. I still liked enough of this book to sort of probably still to say it is worth your time. But it's a heavy read, and it's also, I will probably say as a warning, the parts of the book, some of the parts involving the Barghast, are frankly both unsettling and also just on the general treatments of women just despicable, to be perfectly honest. I mean, that's not to sort of say that Erikson here is representing the sort of the true dark side of Barghast, I guess, and their practices and stuff, but I mean, it's just very, very kind of, upsetting to read, as I say. It's just really a warning about that, I guess, for any readers going into this blind. And actually, I think I've got the pages here. I mean, I think it's about page 740. I unmarked it just to warn anybody that comes across this book, because it is just, it's just kind of upsetting to read that bit. I just found it. It's kind of this whole hobbling thing, which you can read up about online what that is, and it's pretty horrible stuff, to put short. So let's go on to my favourite moments. Let's move on to some of the light-hearted stuff after that as well, that I did enjoy. And let's go to a moment which involved T-Hole and Queen Yanath, or Yanath, don't know how you say her name. And they're bantering basically, and this is Queen Yanath. Right, let's start with Queen Yanath here. Right, so she says, "Food and wine awaits us in the dining hall. Allow me to lead our guests." And she stepped down from the dais, and T-Hole says, "Darling wife, for you I make all manner of allowances." And then Yanath responds, "I am relieved that you so willingly assume such a burden, husband." Then T-Hole replies, "So am I." And, just there's a bit of that kind of interesting, I guess, would you call it chemistry? There's some interesting stuff going on between those two in the earlier parts of this book. Let's go on to our next favourite moments in the book. I think it's the second one I've got here, involving Shurq. I think she's been part of favourite moments in the book before. She's just very down to earth, very sort of no nonsense in the way she talks, and I like this. It's actually, I think it's the Queen again, Queen Yanath, talking to her, and I think let's read from here. So I think this is the Queen asking her, "And have you found it contentment, I mean, since your excesses are not in question?" And Shurq says, "I have indeed." And then the Queen says, "What if you could live again?" And then Shurq says, "I've thought about it a lot lately, in fact, since there's a necromancer on the Malazans who says he can attempt a ritual that might return me to life." Then the Queen says, "And?" And she says, "I'm undecided. Vanity." And the Queen says, "Your ageless countenance?" "The prospect of unending pleasure, actually." And then the Queen says, "Don't you think you might tire of it someday?" And then Shurq just says, "I doubt it." And Queen Yanath pursed her lips. "Interesting," she murmured. I keep saying Yanath or Janath. Somebody say how you meant to say it. It's driving me round the bends at the moment. Queen Yanath, Janath. Don't know how to say it. Anyway, let's move on to the next favourite moment I've got here. This is Vedan. Now, I did mention this earlier on. So this is my favourite moment. This whole segment is good. This whole scene, rather, is really good. And here we go. This is his fight with one of the Liozans, I think, who is on horseback. Hands tore at him, but feebly, as Vedan forced his thumb deeper in as far as it could go, then aimed it upwards, but he failed to reach the brain. He got onto his knees, lifting the Liozan's head by hooking his embedded thumb under the ridge of the brow. And then he forced it round, twisting even as he pressed down with his bloodied armoured arm jammed across the man's mouth. Joints popped, the jaw swung loose, and then as the Liozan's body thrashed in a frenzy, the vertebrae parted and the warrior went limp beneath him. So a bit of gore, and I have mentioned I tend to pick out those moments in the book sometimes. Anyway, let's move on. I'm not gonna say it's a favourite moment, as more as a warning again about the stuff, and a spoiler, more of a spoiler alert here. This involves Vedan. Right, it's all the stuff involving Vedan in one of the later parts of the book. Let's go to my. So I've only done 4 favourite moments. That can't be right. Maybe it is right, unless I missed one at the start. Let's go to this final favourite moment then. This is right near the end. This involves, I think this is Kisware after this kind of clash between the Kachane Shamal and the Kachane Naruk. I think I got that right. So Kisware is, I think she's not in a good way. Her left leg was bent in 4 places. The stub of bone thrust through her legging. She drew a knife and twisted round to study the horse, eyes fixing on a pulsing artery in its neck. Didn't matter. They were all dead. Even if she could have reached the mortal sword and that mad red-haired queen, it wouldn't have mattered. She glanced up. The sky was flesh, and that flesh was rotting before her eyes. Sinta Vedan, bone hunters. This is sort of her thoughts, really, I guess, this bit. So Sinta Vedan, bone hunters. Adjunct, are you happy? You killed them all. You killed us all. And yeah, so I just like that part where she's sort of thinking her thoughts there, and yeah, just sort of obviously not totally happy about this situation that's unfolded because of their mission in this desert wasteland, the bone hunters. So that's it, I guess. And yeah, I guess it's like, yeah, definitely not one of my favourite books, but it's not to say I don't have a certain level of respect for the book itself and its depth of character. Like I say, I mean, obviously the dark stuff that happens here isn't very pleasant to read, but it does also paint a picture of the characters and the cultures and all that sort of stuff. And it was another epic book in the series, that's for sure. I mean, it was over 1,200 pages. I bet the last book's big as well. I need to check out how long that is. That's probably going to be a big one too, right? So got that to look forward to. But hopefully that one will finish on a high. And yeah, then that will be the end of the main series. I do know there are other books as well involved, but that'll be the end of the main series. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Don't forget to drop a sub if you enjoy these videos. Otherwise, from me, until next time, bye for now.